Hello, welcome back to Hazel Jane Tarot, and today we're going to be talking about my June favourites. Now, June was a month that was very dominated by work for me, very, very busy month, but I still managed to have some fun. And one of the things that happened this month in Northern Ireland is that our indoor hospitality was fully open again, so I've been able to enjoy meeting up with friends indoors for a meal, which has been super, and even went to the cinema. Now, I love going to the cinema. It is one of my favourite things. I would go to see anything really, but I went with some friends to see In the Heights, which I really, really enjoyed. And I must get the soundtrack album for so I can listen to it again, but really, really enjoyed that. It was really fun, colourful, uplifting, and it's a musical. Obviously I love musicals, so that was a great night out to the cinema. The other thing that I've been watching this month, I haven't really talked about it before, I don't think, but I have posted about it on my Instagram, is I have been watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy. Since Stars came on to Disney Plus, I started watching at the beginning of season 2 because I'd seen season 1 previously, and so I started in March watching season 2. I'm currently halfway through season 7, so I've watched 131 episodes of Grey's Anatomy in the last like 4 months. So yeah, I have a little bit of a Grey's Anatomy problem, but I really am enjoying it. I thought season 6 was excellent after a bit of a dip in season 5, in my opinion, especially the last 2 episodes of season 6. No spoilers if you haven't seen it already. But that was just so tense, edge of your seat TV, some of the best TV I've seen in a long time. So that was great. I'm really enjoying it. I love Miranda. She is my favourite character. So if you're a Grey's fan, no spoilers past season 7, please. Although I really am going to have to give myself a break from it soon and watch something else. But that has been my entertainment out and my entertainment at home largely through the month of June. So I'll maybe talk next about decks. I haven't really bought many decks or any decks this month. I did pre-order the Victorian Romantic Tarot from Baba Studios on a bit of an impulse buy. So that should be coming at some point before the end of the year. But a friend gave me this as a present. So this is the Archetype Cards by Caroline Miss, and they're published by Hay House. And this is a deck that my friend has had for a while, and she sort of had her time with it, and she was ready to let it move on to somebody else. So she gave it to me as a little surprise gift, which was lovely. So I haven't really worked with it much yet, although when I did pull a card from it when I got it first. I got the same card, like I think 3 separate card pulls, just messing around with it, when I got it first. So that is unusually synchronistic, to get the same card 3 separate times in 24 hours. So I think there's definitely something interesting to explore here. So as you can see, each of the cards names a particular archetype, and then there's different ways that you can work with it, obviously, and I haven't even looked at the guidebook yet. So this is a really interesting deck. It's a mass market one from Hay House, and it's one I was delighted to add to my collection. So thank you. If you're watching, you know who you are. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to learning a bit more about this. And the other new tarot thing that came in this month is this big book, which is the Book of Maps for the Revelation edition of the Spirit Keepers Tarot. The deck itself isn't out yet, and I ordered a printed copy of this book from Lulu Print on Demand, which is how Benabel puts out her guidebooks, which is actually really good in that you don't have to pay for me the international shipping of a big heavy book from America, and I just paid the sort of print on demand cost, which was around £25, I think. And this time the guidebook is in colour, which is really interesting. So, I mean, there's loads to dive into, as with the Book of Maps and anything Benabel produces, really. They always are in incredible detail. So I haven't even cracked this book yet. I'm looking at more pages of it now than I have so far, but it looks fascinating, and we're sort of waiting for the deck to arrive, which will be later in this year as well. So that's the other new thing that came in this month. So what I've been working with deck-wise, my own personal tarot reading, tarot practice, I've not been doing that much reading, to be honest. You know, I would normally have a routine of doing like a month ahead reading, and then maybe a new moon reading and a full moon reading and week ahead readings and things like that. Certainly back in January, February, that's what I was doing, but I have not been doing that in the month of June at all. My tarot journal has nothing new in it really for this month. I haven't been journaling or going into detail with readings, but I have been using this deck quite often. This is the Mysteries of Mary tarot deck. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen that I set up a little altar to Mary, which I was meant to do for the month of May, but never got around to, and then ended up just doing it at the beginning of June. So I've got a little statue of Mary and some candles, and my Bridget candle is there as well. And I have this deck and a little easel to set up cards from the deck that I pull. And I find this deck has been really nice to pull a card at night time and to maybe think about the card or read the entry for the card in this guidebook. So this is the Mysteries of Mary tarot deck by Hetty-Ann Grobler. I haven't done a full review on this yet, and I must do. I think I'm getting close to being able to do a proper review of the deck. This is very much for me a spiritual deck. It's a deck for contemplation. It's very rooted in, I know she goes beyond just the sort of traditional Catholic iconography of Mary and includes other elements as well and other sort of divine feminine elements, but it's very rooted in Catholicism. So I think if somebody was not from that background, this deck might be quite hard to get into. But I've quite enjoyed, you know, I pull a card and I can straight away recognize, you know, maybe here is like I can't see any, they're not coming up now, but, you know, like I might see a card of, you know, it's the Sacred Heart of Jesus, or this card is Mary appearing at Lourdes, or this is Saint Therese, the little flower, or something like that, you know, sort of images that I'm familiar with. And it has been really nice for contemplation. It's a beautiful deck. My little girl, who is just turned 3, she likes sort of seeing the pictures out, and she likes to pick a new one. So I've been letting her pick a card sometimes and just put it up on the easel. We don't really talk about them really, or what's in the image very much. Just she just likes to pick out a new card, and then I might look up the meaning of that card later on. So that's the Mysteries of Mary tarot deck, and that's the one that I've been using for as close to a daily draw, but just pulling a card at night really for contemplation and reflection. If I've been doing a tarot reading for myself this month, this is the deck I've been using, and this is the Wheel of the Year tarot. I just posted a review. Sorry, that was very loud. I just posted a review of this on my channel. So that should be the previous video before this one, if you have a wee look. And this deck I've been using for readings if I've wanted to pull some cards about a particular issue, or when I've been doing practice readings. This is the deck that I've been using. One of the ways I've been sort of looking into and practicing tarot this month is I'm still working through this book, Tarot Interactions by Deborah Lipp, with a couple of friends who are also studying through this book. So when I come across like an exercise or a spread in this book, which is all about like how to work with card combinations and so on, what I'll tend to do is, you know, bookmark the exercise to come back to another time, and then try the exercise out with this deck, just with the people being very clearly drawn, and you know, directionality and so on in the deck. It seems to work pretty well with this book, and I think maybe just the color tones of the deck are similar to the color tones of the image on the cover of this book, and it just sort of feels like a good match for me. So I've been using that a little bit for whatever reasons I have been doing this month. And I've also been using this deck quite a lot as well. This is the Song of My Heart Oracle deck, which seem to have got, no, it's okay. I don't use reversals with this. So the Song of My Heart Oracle deck, this is by Hand Be That Pencil, who you can find on Instagram. I'll try to link her website below. So this is a beautiful affirmation-based deck. The artist is from New Zealand, and she's included a lot of New Zealand landscape and animals and sort of that sort of thing in the deck. And I have a little easel in my kitchen that I've been pulling a card, not every day, but when I feel like pulling a card, I've been pulling a card from this deck and displaying it alongside a card from the Mother's Wisdom deck, which has been on display all month. I had the same card up, and then I just paired it with a card from this deck as and when I felt like pulling a new message. And again, I didn't journal about it. I didn't do anything really in deep depth with it. I just had it out to look at and think about the little message on the card. So that's been the main decks that I've worked with for my own use this month, has been the Mysteries of Mary Tarot deck, the Wheel of Fortune, the Wheel of the Year Tarot, and the Song of My Heart Oracle. So before I get on to the decks I've been using for my Instagram readings, I'll maybe dip into something else. So something totally new that I tried this month was knitting. Just towards the end of the month, one of my friends, we were in a shop that was selling this beautiful coloured wool, and she said she really wanted to encourage me to try knitting. So far, this is what I've done. People are like, what are you making? A piece of knitted material, maybe a scarf if I keep going for long enough, or some sort of neck wrap. I'm just knitting to knit and to try it out. So I'm quite enjoying it, and it's been something like I've been doing it while I've been watching my hundreds of episodes of Grey's Anatomy, and I have been keeping it in this beautiful bag, which was also a gift from a friend. So the colour, the teal is maybe coming out a bit dark there on the camera, but this bag is just like a little tote that has a print of a piece of original art by Ellen Bowler McCartney, who you can follow on Instagram. I'll try to link her below as well. So this artist is a friend of mine, and the original images are done in paper cutting. So the black frame is one piece of paper, and then card, and then all the other colours that you see are pieces of paper that have been laid in behind the frame. So it's the original pieces are quite they've got a bit of dimension to them because it's layered paper, but this is just the print on the bag. But Ellen Bowler McCartney Arts, beautiful work. So I would love you to check her out and give her a follow on Instagram if you don't follow her already, and I'll put her stuff below so you can check her out. But this bag has been holding my knitting. And what else? Something else before we go back to decks. Maybe we can talk about studying Irish. So as you know, I've been studying Irish since the beginning of the year, and I was learning, I've been attending an online class on Zoom, and I'm still doing that, and that's very focused on conversational Irish and functional language and phrase building. And that's been great, and I have learned so much from that course. But I tried to build up, some extra, like to keep going and not just be dependent on the class itself. So myself and my friend who I'm studying with, we went to An Culturelán in Belfast, which is the Irish Cultural Centre, the Irish Language Centre, and we went to the bookshop, and I picked up some books, and I ended up going back again a second time later on in June, and picked up some more books. So this is one of the books I got. This is a reading practice book, and so like each activity, you've got like this is the very first one, so very basic reading passage, and then some questions and the answers. And I've just been working through that, and of course this is introducing new vocabulary as well. This is occupations, which I hadn't studied yet with my class. But just reading for general sense and not even worrying too much about picking up all the vocabulary. But I've been working through that. I'm a couple of sessions into it. So that's been a good little book for studying Irish. But these have been amazing. So as you know, I have a little girl who's 3, and I've picked up these Irish toddler books, of which there are loads of children's books available in Irish. So this is probably my favourite, maybe my favourite book of the whole month. This little one, it's a musical book. So I'll show you how it works. So it plays the little song, and so there's all these little songs, and we've been looking at this together, and my little girl has been learning to sing these, and it's just so cute. And then I obviously have been having to figure out and translate the songs. So it turns out Baji Nailami is, it's Phelim, like the name. So little Phelim's little boat is going to Gola. Little Phelim's little boat with Phelim in it. That's basically what this means, that little song. But so we've been slowly kind of working on translating these little songs, and she's been singing them. But it's just even exposure to the language and the sounds of the language, which has been lovely. I really loved this book. And then we've just been looking at a few others, like these are some of the ones that I've translated. Just simple little storybooks. And honestly, it's hilarious that, toddler books are kind of like my level in terms of reading comprehension. So a simple book like this, based on what I've studied in my class, I only really had to look up 1 or 2 words on each page to figure out the story, which is he's trying to find out who is snoring. Majin Wai means good morning. But then a book like this, there was a bit more work for me to translate it. Laol in Danin. Danin is the little character. This is like Danin's lovely day. And so, you're reading the story and working out the little phrases. So some of it I would know from what I'd studied in my class, like Shaw Ugav Joch is like, here is your drink, and watering the flowers. But some of the things, like this being the word for sand, for example, I had to look up. And yes, my friends who do speak Irish have been very patiently answering my texts as I've been texting little phrases and what do you think this means? And I've also been very reliant on Changlan, which is the Irish website, which has an online dictionary where you can get the meanings of and spoken little recordings of the 3 different dialects of the word being spoken. Also has been great as I found some of these books being read aloud on YouTube, so I was able to listen to the sounds of the words and how they're supposed to sound. This little book, another wee book about Danin, this is called Cawil Teddy, Where is Teddy? And this is one of my daughter's favourites at the minute. And we've also been working through Oisín Éireann Pata, which you don't need to tell you, Oisín is on the potty, and this little book was much more complicated in terms of its language. So I had a lot of translating using the online dictionary. So like Shoe Oisín, this is Oisín. It's Buckle More Krog August. So it's like he's a big brave boy, and so on. And it's like he's ready to say goodbye to nappies. So I've been working with these books, and I suppose a lot of my work studying Irish then this month as a result has been reading, and then reading aloud and trying to get the hang of the pronunciation of the words, as well as just the repeated exposure of reading a toddler book is actually really great for language learning. When you're studying something yourself, you might read it once. Like I might read the extract from this book once, answer the questions, and then you're finished. But with a toddler book, you're reading the book again and again and again. And that has been really great. And my daughter's been really up for looking at the Irish books, which has been fantastic. Yeah, we've just really, really enjoyed that together. So we're up to 18 minutes already, my goodness. I will show you some more decks then before we go on to books and music. So I've been continuing to do readings on my Instagram, with the idea of it being a reading for whoever needs it. Sometimes they really resonate with me personally, sometimes they don't. And I have been just using different combinations of decks, and it has been a really nice way to share a reading, but also to use some of the decks that I have, and just keep rotating in different decks. So one of the first combinations I did this month was the Spirit Keeper's Tarot by Benabel Wen. This is the first edition, and the Song of My Heart Oracle by Hand Me That Pencil. And I thought they worked really, really nicely together. The colour of the Oracle deck and then the 2 black and white tarot cards with it just really seemed to work very well to give a balanced message. And some of the resonances, like even here we have like the 4 of Swords and I Am at Peace, which just go really well together. I stay focused. So that I really enjoyed that combination of decks in my readings early in June, in the month of June. And it's lovely to get decks like the Spirit Keepers Tarot out and use it. I used it for my year ahead reading right at the very start of January, but it was lovely to get it out and use it again. I also paired the Song of My Heart Oracle with the Sun and Moon Tarot. I actually might have done that first, but I had worked with, I think the way I had set it out was I had 2 cards from the Song of My Heart Oracle and 2 cards from the Sun and Moon Tarot, which was made for nice readings as well. So obviously trying to put together a really succinct short reading from a reading that involves 4 cards is more challenging. But that was a nice, it's a nice exercise for me too. Those readings on Instagram where I really don't want to write too much, I don't want to write a big paragraph. I'm really trying to come up with a succinct message that, again, coming back maybe to some of what I've been learning from this book, Tarot Interactions, you know, looking at how the cards combine to create one message rather than, whereas maybe if I was doing a reading in person for someone, I would, or, you know, for an individual, I might go into more detail on each individual card. Another combination that I tried that was really nice was the Visconti Sforza and the Mystical Healing reading cards. So this is the US Games reproduction of the Pierpoint Morgan Visconti Sforza, which, as you can see, like, they're massive cards. This is the granddaddy, the original tarot deck, as far as we know. So as you can see, it's a pip deck, and that's not a style of deck that I'm super familiar with reading with. But I was able to use the knowledge that I had to come up with some good readings in combination with this deck, which is the Mystical Healing reading cards. And because the reading cards have, again, got that art, which is by Jake Badley, which has kind of got that old feel to it. And the colours tone in really nicely with the Visconti Sforza. That was actually a really nice combination to work with, and I think I would definitely work with that combination of decks again. The Oracle deck, I think, with the message and the really clear message of the Oracle deck, really helped me with working with the pip deck to pull out the relevant resonance, you know, the aspect of the pip card that was relevant to what was coming through in the Oracle card. That helped me sort of anchor the reading. So that was another combination that I enjoyed. Sorry, I'm rustling about trying to put these away. I'm surrounded by boxes and books right now. Another combination of decks that worked really well for those daily readings on Instagram was the Tarot de StCroix and the Earth Wisdom Oracle cards. And I think I picked this combination because of the contrast in colour. The Earth Wisdom is very green with its, you know, earth-based imagery, kind of Celtic imagery, and, you know, the back design is all green. And then the Tarot de StCroix is so fiery and orange. Sorry, my video was interrupted there, so I'm going to try to edit this on to what came before. So these 2 decks I thought worked really well together in combination. The messages of the 3 decks resonated quite well. And again, using the Oracle deck to sort of anchor the reading and then seeing how the meanings of the tarot cards helped expand upon that. So for example, you know, divine connection here in the middle. So how can I achieve divine connection? Well, we've got Ace of Wands and Ace of Pentacles. So lots of new ideas, new inspiration coming through that divine connection. Whereas maybe in another reading, we might say, well, grace. Well, how is grace going to be achieved today? Maybe through rest, through time out, through compassionate connection with another person, or an offer of compassionate connection from someone else. You know, so that sort of narrative that was created by using the oracle and the tarot together, I thought worked really well. So the last deck that I used for those types of readings was the Modern Love Tarot by Ethany. The Modern Love Tarot is absolutely gorgeous. The art is by Lucy Morningstar, who, if you don't follow her on Instagram, that she shares a lot of her art on Instagram. But it's a deck that, I mean, I pre-ordered it way back at the start of 2020, and it's a deck that I don't use as often as I would like to, because it is so gorgeous. So I created 3 card spreads using the Modern Love Tarot, and tried to create then a cohesive one message from the 3 cards on my Instagram readings. So that is the 3rd deck that I worked with, or the final deck, sorry, that I worked with for my Instagram readings in the month of June. So I'm still sort of finishing off my week with the Modern Love Tarot. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll be seeing some more of those readings for the rest of this week. So, books then, other books. I finished off reading Slug by Holly McNish, which I shared a poem from last month. Holly McNish is a poet, but the book is a combination of sort of contemporary poetry and essays. She's very funny, she's very real, so adult language and reference to adult topics in her work, as well as a lot of talk about things like friendship, parenting, just modern life, grief. You know, she covers such a range of things. I really, really love Holly McNish's work, and I'll try to share a link to her YouTube channel below as well, so you can hear her reading some of her work if you didn't check her out last month. But yes, this is the first book that sort of finished off this month. Then I also read this for my book club, and this is not the kind of thing I normally read at all. I don't normally read sort of psychological thrillers. So this was the story of a barrister in London, and she's having a pretty toxic affair with a colleague, and her husband is sort of the main carer for their daughter. And it starts off kind of positioning her as a kind of anti-hero, but then as things develop, you start to see the husband is actually quite controlling, and things are maybe not all as they seem. I didn't really like it in some ways. Like, I didn't like any of the characters. They're all pretty horrible people, but it was such a page turner. I started it at 7 p.m. one day and finished it by midnight the next day. So if you like a kind of page turning thriller, this was really a page turner. And but it's very adult content. Again, it deals with a lot of sort of issues around sexual consent and that sort of thing, and could be potentially quite triggering for people. So just be aware, and maybe read a few more reviews of it before you read it. But I don't want to spoil the plot too much for you if you do like this type of thriller. But yes, it was a quick read, and that's, I suppose, the thing about a book group. It puts you on to reading things that you maybe wouldn't ordinarily read. This book was a gift from one of my sisters. She sent this to me because obviously with me studying Irish, she thought I'd be interested. So this book is an exploration of words that are drifting out of the Irish language. And a lot of it is words that maybe, I think this would apply to almost any language, words that were very rural in their usages, and as society has become more urbanized, the words are falling out of use. But with Irish being only spoken by native speakers in very particular rural and kind of isolated from each other parts of the country, that effect might be exacerbated in the Irish language. But Manchán Magan is the writer of this book. He just sort of talks through a lot of different words, of different sort of like some of the topics there. And you can see some of the topics might be really appealing to viewers of this channel. So things like fairy words, thresholds. I haven't read the whole book yet, but there's stuff about witches' hills and you know, women and witches and so on, and how to recognize the Cailleach, all sort of magical language and mythology. So I wanted to read you a wee bit from this book just to give you a flavour if you're interested in Irish culture and that sort of thing. So this is a chapter called Fairy Words, and I'll just read you a little bit because to give you a feel for it. So many Irish words are so imbued with elements of the other world that a speaker really ought to clarify their own relationship with the spirit before attempting to learn the language. Though the idea is derided or denied now, for eons our people believed that fairies lived beneath the earth, and for some people there's still a presence in their lives. Even if you no longer accept the existence of fairies, you cannot help but encounter them in many words and place names. The word for kidnap, for example, is fuada, and you'll hear it regularly on the news to refer to criminal abductions, but that's not really what it used to mean. Fuadach meant being spirited away or carried off by the fairies. That was how earlier dictionaries defined it, but newer publications have conveniently forgotten this. There was a word to describe the empty husk or changeling that was left behind when the fairies whisked away a person's spirit or soul. Typically it was a defenceless child or an unattached woman who was targeted. This word was eowar, but now that meaning has itself been kidnapped and replaced with something else. Eowar has come to mean remnant or spent residue of something, such as the dregs in a bottle of wine or the crumbs in a toaster. Other words are code for fairies because the actual word she or shiga could never be uttered in their presence, and you should always assume that they are present. It is best to refer to them as Nadini Maich, the good people, or Nahusla, the gentry. Therefore, H. Usul can mean either a noble place or a fairy region, depending on the context. So that just gives you a little bit of a flavour. A lot of what's in this book is talking about agricultural uses and, you know, that sort of thing. It's not all about the myths and the fairies and the other world, but there's enough of that in there, I think, that would interest a lot of people who like this channel. And if you're interested in Irish culture, it's definitely a really interesting book. In terms of pronunciation of those words, folks, I had looked them up on the online dictionary, and I was doing my best with the Ulster dialect pronunciation. So that's 32 words for field. And to finish off then, I will take you a quick quiz through what I've been listening to. One thing I have not been listening to is this. I think I told you a while back I had got really interested in the rock group Fanny, who were an all-female rock group in the 70s, and I'd ordered this LP of their album Charity Ball, which has arrived, but I don't have a record player yet, so I haven't listened to it yet. And unfortunately, the CD reissues of Fanny's back catalogue are just not available at the minute. Like, I can't find them. So anyway, you can listen to their stuff on YouTube, and I have been, but I haven't actually listened to the LP yet. Some of the other stuff I have been listening to is things you'll have seen before, maybe on my channel. This band, Saint Sister, they have a new album out, which I don't have yet. I'll try to link their website below. They're a Irish duo, two girls that do sort of, they include things like a harp, but also vocals and electronic instruments and really lovely ethereal music. So really recommend checking them out if you haven't before. This is the new album from Josh Pike, which I've listened to a few times. It hasn't grabbed me the way some of his previous albums have. I love Josh Pike. He's one of my favourite artists. He's an Australian singer-songwriter. I've also had a little bit of a Taylor Swift moment this month. I was listening again to her album Folklore, which I've had for a while, and I then pulled out Lover, which is much more fun and upbeat. I really, really enjoy this album, and my daughter enjoys it too. So Taylor's been getting a bit of a listen. And listening to Folklore kind of reminded me of this album, which I haven't listened to in a while. So I took this out again. Ciara O'Neill is a singer-songwriter from Northern Ireland. She's somebody I know personally, but this is her first album. I think she has a second album, which I haven't actually got yet. But she would describe the genre of her music as dark folk. And you can see there's some great pictures there of Ciara playing gigs and recording and so on. But this is a great album. It's again very ethereal kind of music. She would remind me as a vocalist very much of Julia Stone from Angus and Julia Stone. So if you like that kind of thing, you should definitely check her out. And she's some great animated videos as well. So I'll try to link a few of Ciara's videos